It was a pristine area. You can come outside in the middle of the night and take a big deep breath and you got nothing but fresh air. Now if you come out at night, you're liable to get a big breath of fectal dust.
We can't open our windows at night because of that dirt that just comes wafting in and stink. You can just see this massive particles going through the air, just massive. It's full of urine, it's full of manure, it's full of antibiotics, it's full of pharmaceuticals, whatever it takes to raise those cows.
One of the problems for concentrated animal feeding operations is that they have so many animals in such a small area, and the animals produce such a large amount of waste that the farmers have a hard time of disposing of that waste. In the past, farmers have put way too much manure on the land, more manure than the crops could use for fertilizer. And that excess manure leached down to the groundwater, and now we have polluted groundwater in the lower Yakima Valley.
So what you're looking at now is a picture of the data centers that are here in Quincy. There's over 300 locomotive-sized diesel generators permitted to operate in our community. Diesel's the #1 toxic of concern because it's not just one individual compound, it's a plethora of them, right? There's PAHs, VOCs, the greenhouse gases of nitrogen oxides, particulate, PM2.5, black carbon, which is emitted when there's cold starts. Carbon black has the greatest greenhouse potential of all of the greenhouse gases. You know, it's called the cloud, and it seems like an appropriate title for the emissions, doesn't it? We had to fight to get controls on these data centers. There were no air pollution controls when they first came in, and there was no limit on the number of hours that these data centers could operate when they first came in.
This is the Superfund site. It's polluted with PCBs, with DDTs, with PAHs, dioxins, and several other really dangerous chemicals.
A lot of the historic contamination of the river came from agricultural upstream, and clear on through Corvallis and the Willamette Valley would flow to this river. The problem is that you end up with a nitrogen level raising up so high they got algae blooms, actually ended up killing the fish, ended up contaminating everything else, and then industry came along and added to it. And now we end up with industry and agriculture both contaminating the river at high levels.
The Silver Valley Community Resource Center, it's a 35-year-old nonprofit established in the epicenter of the nation's largest Superfund site. This area was truly designated the silver capital of the world because of its rich silver mining industry and smelting, which is where the lead processing came into play, and some of that refinery work over the years, 100 years of deliberate pollution and contamination to the water, the air, the forests, the rivers, people's lives.
And I don't have anything against mining. My dad was a miner. I don't have anything against anybody trying to earn a living. That would be ridiculous. But it's the way they have ruined the land, obviously the air, the pollution, and now we have to address that plus the health issues that came along with that.
We know EPA has failed with a cleanup here, building toxic waste dumps all over in this lower disadvantaged part of the Superfund site. In the case of the old mission, 160 metric tons of lead washed downstream contaminating Coeur d'Alene Lake, Coeur d'Alene River, Spokane River, on into the Pacific Ocean.
At the eastern end of the Port Angeles Harbor on the Strait of Juan de Fuca in Washington State, the Rayonier pulp mill still sits there. And at close to 1997, the company planned to leave town without cleaning up its hazardous wastes. And EPA found that the levels of contaminants ranked the whole area for Superfund. The cleanup oversight responsibility was passed off to the Washington State Department of Ecology. But in 25 years, few contaminants have been removed, and Ecology is recommending the polluter cover up rather than clean up the contamination.
Grassroots activists are really the eyes, ears, and enforcers of environmental law, right? We see it first. We'll educate ourselves and help others. If you don't know what the law says, you don't know when it's being violated.
How can we as a community, or as our communities, join together and in Region 10 and affect all changes for all of us?
The more voices that talk in unison, the more likely that there will be someone that listens.
This is a systemic problem, and it affects all of us, and we all have something to say about it.
Without that groundswell, grassroots groundswell, things are too slow to progress, right? Too many lives are on the line, too much degradation to the environment.
And collectively, when we all work together and say, no, this is not okay, you know, like Harry in the movie Network, you know, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. And you have to get mad and you have to have a group and a collective, and that's where Newt's really is, you know, that collective energy, you know, to help solve problems.